the presentation of the 2019 budget.
But if you're new to Twany Report, kindly click on the subscribe button to subscribe to this channel, and also click on the bell notification button to get notified as we upload new content. We'll be uploading lots and lots of wonderful content on this channel. But for today, let us move on to the news for today.
Freedom come by struggle, by struggle. Freedom come. Freedom come by struggle, by struggle. Freedom come. Freedom come by struggle. Freedom come by struggle, by struggle. Freedom come by struggle.
At this moment, the legislators are all standing, waiting the arrival of Mr. President into the chamber.
For us to meet as representatives of Nigerians to receive the budget from our President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the President of our country. Father, we pray, Lord, that you take control of everything that we are going to do today. We pray, Lord, that you give us ears to receive and hearts, Father God, to manifest what we are going to hear today. Father, we pray, Lord, that you bless Mr. President, bless the President of the Senate, bless the Speaker of the House of Representatives, bless all honourable members and distinguished senators here present. Father, we pray, Lord, that Nigeria will continue to do well, Nigeria will continue to do well, Father God, in everything, and that this budget will be another budget to move us forward to another level. Thank you, Father.
Senate Honourable Aminu Judge will give us the Muslim opening prayer.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت وأنعمت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم انصر محمد بوهاري اللهم مكتهم عدو محمد بوهاري اللهم دمره يا مصور القلوب يا مصور القلوب الفاتحة. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. ما شاء الله 2019 budget, ما شاء الله محمد بوهاري, ما شاء الله نيجيريا. والسلام عليكم.
Your Excellency, President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Your Excellency, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, GCUN Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, the Honourable Speaker, Right Honourable Yakub Dogara, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Your Excellency, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Principal Officers of both chambers, Deputy Presiding Officers of the Senate and House of Representatives, Senators, Honourable Members of the House of Representatives, Secretary of Government, Your Excellencies, Executive Governors here present, Honourable Ministers here present, Party Chairman here present, the Clerk of the National Assembly, Clerk of the Senate and the House, Management, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, on behalf of my colleagues, distinguished Senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Honourable Members of the House of Representatives, I welcome you, our members of your executive team, to the 4th joint session of National Assembly on presentation of the budget proposals. I hereby invite Your Excellency to address this joint session. and lay the 2019 budget proposal for consideration of National Assembly in accordance with section as a
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The Senate President, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, members of the National Assembly, state governors present here, members of the Federal Executive Council, senior government officials here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to present the 2019 budget proposal to this joint session of the National Assembly. This has been my last budget speech to the 8th National Assembly. I will review economic developments over the past 3 years and a half, with particular emphasis on 2018. I will then highlight the budget proposals for 2019, the full details of which will be given by the Honourable Minister of Budget and National Planning. The last 3.5 years have been challenging both at home and abroad. Commodity prices, both oil and non-oil, have been volatile. Global trends, be it security, trade, our politics, have also been unpredictable. Here in Nigeria, we have to cope with disruptions in oil production and exports, security challenges, and devastating floods. Through hard work and by the special grace of God, we have weathered these storms and made progress on many fronts, which is why we have cause to be optimistic about the future. The economy has recovered from recession . The economy has recovered from recession. And 6 quarters of growth since then. We have done more work with less resources in agriculture, infrastructure, and social investments. We have built better understanding between the federal government and the states on non-partisan fault lines, in particular intervening several times to support states to meet their obligations, including the payment of salaries and pensions. Sustained development is difficult, if not impossible, in an atmosphere of insecurity and poor governance. We have therefore made strenuous and successful efforts to overcome the insurgency in the Northeast and to resolve intercommunal misunderstanding elsewhere. May I appeal to the honourable members that the world is watching us, and we are supposed to be above this. The federal government and the National Economic Council have been working in a unified and patriotic manner to tackle the underlying causes of tension between pastoralists and sedentary farmers. These conflicts have been a long-standing history caused mainly by competition for increasingly scarce resources, occasioned by rising population and erratic weather conditions, a product of climate change. I take this opportunity to salute the men and women in the armed forces and security services for their courage, sacrifice, and patriotism in protecting our collective safety and security. The federal government has also sustained its efforts in fight against corruption and improve public financial management. And its efforts to improve public financial management through the comprehensive implementation of the Treasury Single Account, the Government Integrated Financial Management Information System, and the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System. You may recall that as part of our commitment to improve governance, we joined the Open Government Partnership in 2016 with the aim of enhancing public service delivery, promoting business opportunity, enhancing government efficiencies, preventing corruption, and building trust in government. We remain committed to these and other institutional reforms that will enhance transparency and accountability in public service delivery. We also recorded several successes in economic management. Real gross domestic product growth stood at 1.81% in the third quarter of 2018 compared to 1.7% in the third quarter of 2017. We have had a sustained accretion to foreign exchange reserves from a low of $28.57 billion United States dollars in May 2015 to $42.92 billion by December 2018. This has contributed to exchange rate stability and will provide a buffer against any anticipated external shocks. Inflation has also declined from a peak of 18.72% in January 2017 to 11.28% in November this year. In the area of trade, Nigeria has moved from a deficit to surplus in our trade balance. As at the third quarter of 2018, the trade balance was a surplus of 681.27 billion naira, representing a significant improvement from the deficit of 290.1 billion naira in 2016. This reflects the rebound in crude oil exports, increased non-oil exports, and a reduction in the importation of food and items that can be produced locally. Foreign capital inflows, including direct and portfolio investments, also responded to improved economic management. Capital importation to Nigeria in the third quarter of 2018 stood at 2.86 billion United States dollars, which is 56.7% increase compared to the corresponding period in 2016. Trading is a significant contributor to our economic development, but we must continue to focus on strengthening actual production. From farmers to miners to processors to digital entrepreneurs to players in the entertainment industry, all hands must be on deck to ensure the country succeeds. With regard to the oil and the gas sector, crude oil production continued to increase steadily towards budgetary targets and will receive a further boost when the 200,000 barrels per day Egina oil field start operations. In agriculture, we are seeing increased investment across the entire value chain, from agricultural inputs to farming and ultimately food processing. Barely 3 years ago, Nigeria was spending $5 million a day on rice importation. Today, rice imports have virtually stopped. Indeed, we are on course to achieve food security in major staple foods in the not too distant future. Distinguished Senate President, Right Honourable Speaker, infrastructure development is also another area in which we have made a lot of progress. Our approach was a logical one. We simply prioritize the completion of critical ongoing projects over the introduction of new ones. For example, in the Ministry of Water Resources, we identified 116 abandoned or uncompleted projects relating to irrigation, dams, drainage, and water supply. To date, we have completed or commissioned a number of these projects, including A, Central Ogbia Regional Water Project in Belsa State, B, Northern Asian Regional Water Supply Project in Edo State, C, Sabke Water Supply Project in Katsina State, D, Takum Water Supply Project in Taraba State, E, Iwashi Ukudam Delta State, F, Shagali Irrigation Project, Sokoto State, G, Galma Dam in Kaduna State, H, Mangu Water Supply Project, Plateau State.
Lie, it's not true. It's not true.
Federal University Makadi Water Supply Project in Benue State.
Only the north.
In the railway sector,
River State, tell us.
we completed and commissioned Abuja Kaduna Rail Line and the Abuja Metro Rail Project. Similarly, the previously abandoned Itape, Ajakuta, Wari Rail Line is undergoing test runs and will soon be commissioned. We are also on track for the Lagos-Kano Rail Line, a significant progress. We are also on track for the Lagos-Kano Rail Line. A significant progress has been made on the Lagos to Ibadan segment of the project. We remain committed to rebuilding and expanding our road network. In 2018, an additional 1,531 kilometers of roads have been constructed and 1,008 kilometers rehabilitated across the country. Priority projects such as the Abuja, Kaduna, Kano Highway, as well as Second Niger Bridge, are well underway through.
Where is it? Second Niger Bridge. Where?
Through the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund. In every state in Nigeria, today there is a major federal road project going on. For instance, in North Central State, long neglected roads like the Ilorin-Jeba Road are stretched of 93 kilometers that took a number of days to travel has been completed to provide a critical link between the north and the south of Nigeria over a few hours. We have awarded the dualization of this road to expand it all to the way to Mokwa, as we have done to the Abuja, Kebbi, Lafia, Makadi Road, where work recently commenced. Similarly, work has resumed on the Suleja-Mina Road after years of inactivity. In the South-South, we have recently completed the 60-kilometer section of Aleshi to Ugeb in Cross River State, and awarded the 72-kilometer section from Odupani Junction to Ugeb, which will reduce a journey that used to take 3 days a few years back to 3 hours. Work has also commenced on the Calabar-Itu-Odupani Road that links Akwa Ibom to Cross River State, as we have started.
Not true.
As we have started to work on the long neglected Boni Bridge to connect these long separated communities.
Not true, it's not correct. There's
in the southeast,
like it's not correct.
In the southeast, a critical section of Umahia linking Oka to Onitsha, a stretch of 18 kilometers, is being constructed now, and one side of it should be ready for use before June 2019. Roads like Arochukwu, Ohafia, Bende are also receiving our attention. In the southwest, long neglected and abandoned roads like the Betagri Expressway have been awarded for construction along with Apapa, Tin Can Island, Mile 2, Mile 2, Awoshiki Road, to ease the congestion currently being experienced in Lagos, while interstate roads linking Ogun through Ikorodu to Shagamu and Ifaja to Ota and Abekuta are being repaired with payment to contractors. In the northwest, we have completed the Sokoto to Tambuwal Jega Road, comprising 135 kilometers out of the entire Sokoto to Yauli stretch, and sections of Kaduna Eastern Bypass and Kano Western Bypass are also progressing. In the northeast, we have started work on the long neglected Mayo Belwa Jada Road and the Gombe Numan Jalingo Road, and recently awarded the reconstruction of bridges damaged by insurgency. In addition, thanks to the 100 billion naira Sukuk bond raised in Nigeria, work is going on in 25 road projects, among which are 1, construction of the Iju, Loko, Oweto Bridge over River Benue. 2, dualization of section of Abuja, Abaji, Lokoja Road. 3, dualization of section of Suleja, Minna Road. 4, dualization of Lokoja, Benin Road, Abajana, Okene. 5, dualization of section of Kano, Maiduguri Road, linking Kano, Jugawa, Bauchi, and Yobe. 6, dualization of Kano, Katsina Road. 7, dualization of Kano, Western Bypass. 7, 8, construction of Kaduna Eastern Bypass. 9, rehabilitation of outstanding section of Onitsha Enugu Expressway. 10, rehabilitation of Enugu Port Harcourt Road and dualization of section of Yenagoa Junction. In power, we are working on over 90 transmission projects across the country. 90. Major power transmission stations like Mayo Belwa in Adamawa, Ejibo and Oduguyan in Lagos, Apo in Abuja, Ekot Bene in switching station in Abia, Maiduguri in Borno, Damaturu in Yobe have been completed to support electricity transmission.
Campaign promises.
For effective delivery to critical areas, we decided that we had to decentralize power supply, leveraging off-grid solutions, especially solar-based systems. We are pushing more, I quote, willing buying, willing seller, unquote, arrangements. Already, this has brought more reliable off-grid power to markets and economic clusters around the country. The projects being implemented right now include the Area market in Aba, the Sabongari market in Kano, and the Sura shopping complex in Lagos, to mention a few. Our hope is to roll out much program to 300 such economic clusters across the country. In addition to economic clusters, we are also looking at rolling out similar off-grid solutions to universities and medical centers across the country. As we develop our infrastructure and power sector, we have not lost sight of the adverse impact climate change has to our economy, food, and national security agenda. The recent floods, farmer-husband conflicts, and aggressive desertification are all effects of climate change. We have seen our forests, lakes, arable land, and grazing areas gradually disappear over the decades. As a government, we took a long-term view on tracking the effects of climate change, which must be contained and ultimately reversed. We have stepped up our afforestation efforts. In the first 2 years, we have planted over 2.3 million seedlings in 21 states. We also successfully launched the Green Bond, which will focus on developing environmentally friendly projects and other green programs across the country. Nigeria is also actively participating in international efforts to tackle climate change. Furthermore, working with key stakeholders, including National Assembly, state governments, and the private sector, we intensified our drive to remove obstacles, reduce processes, and lower costs of doing business. The fact that over the past 3 years, Nigeria has gained 24 places in the World Bank's rate ease of doing business, ranking is a clear indication that we are moving in the right direction. We are confident that improvements arising from ongoing work will result in another quantum leap in the 2019 rankings. The states have also keyed into efforts to improve the business environment, and the sub-national doing things report for Nigeria showed that 32 out of 36 states recorded overall improvement. In line with our commitment to creating a fairer and more inclusive society, I am pleased to update you on our efforts in this regard, especially through the N-Power scheme. 500,000 graduates have been employed. The National Homegrown School Feeding Program is feeding 9,300,892 pupils in 49,837 schools in 24 states across Nigeria and employing 96,972 cooks. The Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program has seen to the disbursement of 1,378,804 loans to small businesses and farmers in all states, including the FCT. These are interest-free loans that will be paid back. 297,773 households in 26 states across the country are benefiting from the conditional cash transfer programs. Distinguished Senate President, Right Honourable Speaker, whilst we are most encouraged by the improved performance of the economy since we started implementing our economic recovery and growth plan, there is an area that continues to be a cause of concern that has to do with our unsatisfactory revenue performance. Although we have sustained efforts at boosting tax revenues, our progress has been constrained by the relatively low level of growth, having just emerged from recession. This has restrained our tax revenue drive. Furthermore, the volatility in oil prices and the disruptions in oil production delayed our plans to recover past due oil license and royalty charges, as well as restructuring of the joint venture oil assets. As we have returned to the path of growth, I have directed that action on all our revenue initiatives be expedited. I have already issued a number of presidential directives on the disposal of recovered assets, deployment of the national trade window, as well as the immediate recovery of past due oil royalties, including by crude seizures if necessary. On asset recovery, in order to put to use for the benefit of all Nigerians monies and assets stolen from public treasury, we have on asset recovery, in order to put to use for the benefit of all Nigerians monies and assets stolen from public treasury, we have seen the 2016 budget created a revenue line in the budget for stolen and recovered funds. Thus, every government project today benefits in one way or the other from recovered, looted funds. I have also directed all the relevant authorities to liquidate all recovered unencumbered assets, such as landed properties, buildings, and vehicles, so that these funds can be available to help in the funding of the budget, particularly the important infrastructure projects. Now to the 2018 budget. The 2018 budget was based on a benchmark oil price of $51 per barrel and oil production of 2.3 million barrels per day and an exchange rate of 305 naira to United States dollar. Based on this, the federal government aggregate revenue of 7.17 trillion naira was projected to contribute to 2018 budget of 9.12 trillion naira. The projected deficit of 1.35 trillion naira or 1.73% of GDP was to be financed mainly by borrowing. In 2018, average oil production up to end of the third quarter was 1.95 million barrels per day, as against the estimated 2.3 million barrels per day for the entire year. However, average market price of Bonny light crude oil was higher, an average of $74 per barrel as at October, than the benchmark price of $15 in the budget. As at the end of the third quarter, federal government actual aggregate revenue was 2.84 trillion naira, which is 40% higher than 2017 revenue. The overall revenue performance is only 53% of the target in the 2018 budget, largely because some of items are yet to be actualized. We have now rolled this revenue item over to 2019. Of the total appropriation of 9.12 trillion naira, 4.59 trillion naira had been spent by 30th September 2018 against the prorated expenditure target of 6.84 trillion naira. This represents 67% performance. Debt service, and the implementation of non-debt recurrent expenditure, notably payment of worker salaries and pensions, are on track. Despite the delay in the passage of the 2018 budget on the 20th of June 2018, the sum of 820.57 billion naira had been released for capital projects as at 14th December 2018. We have carried over capital projects that were not likely to be fully funded by year-end 2018 to 2019 budget. The 2019 budget proposal is intended to further place the economy on the path of inclusive, diversified, and sustainable growth in order to continue to lift significant numbers of our students out of poverty. The underlying drives of the 2019 revenue projections have been adjusted to reflect current realities. On the expenditure side, allocations to ministries, departments, and agencies of government were guided by the three objectives of the ERGP, which are 1, restoring and sustaining growth, 2, investing in our people, and 3, building a globally competitive economy. The 2019 budget proposal is based on the following assumptions. A, oil price benchmark of $60 per barrel. B, oil production estimate of 2.3 million barrels per day, including condensates. C, exchange rate of 305 naira per American dollar. 4, real GDP growth of 3.01%, and E, inflation rate of 9.98%. Notwithstanding the recent softening in international oil prices, the considered view of most reputable analysts is that the downward trend in oil prices in recent months is not necessarily reflective of the outlook for 2019. However, as a responsible administration, we will continue to monitor the situation and will respond to any changes in the international oil price outlook for 2019. With regard to oil production, I have directed the NNPC to take all possible measures to achieve the targeted oil production of 2.3 million barrels per day. The total revenue is projected at 6.97 trillion naira, which is 3% lower than the 2018 estimate of 7.17 trillion naira, consisting of oil revenue projected at 3.73 trillion naira, while non-oil revenue is estimated at 1.39 trillion naira. Excuse me. Yes. We have allowed 305 billion naira, equivalent to 1 billion United States dollars, for underway recovery by NNPC on premium motor secrets in 2019. We will continue working to bring it downward so that such resources are freed up to meet the developmental needs of our people. Let me also take this opportunity to address and clarify the under-recoveries or subsidy on petrol. In a period of economic challenges, where purchasing power is weak, we must reduce some of the burden on Nigerians. The problem with subsidies in the past was abuse and corruption. Today, the government through the NNPC is the sole importer of premium PMC, premium motor secrets, and therefore the under-recovery is from the NNPC's trading account. This means the possibility of some marketers falsifying claims is removed. The estimate for non-oil revenue consists of 799.52 billion naira from companies' income tax, 229.34 billion naira from value-added tax and customs duties of 302.5 billion naira. We have reduced our expectation from independent revenues to 624.58 billion naira. Other revenues expected in 2019 include various recoveries of 203.38 billion naira, 710 billion naira as proceeds from the restructuring of government equity in joint ventures and other sundry incomes of 104.1 billion naira. A total expenditure of 8.83 trillion naira is estimated for 2019 budget. This includes grants and donor funds of 209.92 billion naira. This provision is less than 2018 federal government appropriated expenditure estimate of 9.12 trillion naira. However, it is higher than the 8.6 trillion naira originally proposed by the executive branch to the National Assembly for 2018. The budget deficit is projected to decrease to 1.86 trillion naira, or 1.3% of the GDP, in 2019 from 1.95 trillion naira projected to 2018. This reduction is in line with our plans to progressively reduce deficit and borrowings over the medium term. The proposed 8.83 trillion naira of 2019 aggregate expenditure comprises A, recurrent cost of 4.04 trillion naira, recurrent. B, debt service of 2.14 trillion naira. And C, statutory transfers of about 492.36 billion naira. D, sinking fund of 120 billion naira, which will be used to retire maturing bond to local contractors. And E, capital expenditure of 2.031 trillion naira, including capital supplementation, but excluding the capital component of statutory transfers. The provision for statutory transfers in 2019 is 492.36 billion naira, which is a 7% decrease from 2018. However, transfers to Niger Delta Development Commission and the Universal Basic Education Commission are projected to be higher as they are directly related to the quantum of oil revenue. The sum of 2.14 trillion naira has been provided for debt service. Of this amount, 80% is to service domestic debt, which amounts to about 70% of the total debt. I will read that again. The sum of 2.14 trillion naira has been provided for debt service, of which amount 80% is to service domestic debt, which accounts for 70% of the total debt. Although our national debt is within sustainable limits, we need to increase our domestic resource mobilization to bring down our debt revenue ratio over the medium term. A substantial part of the current cost proposal for 2019 is for payment of salaries and overheads in ministries providing critical service, public services as such. A, 569.07 billion naira for the Ministry of Interior. B, 435.62 billion naira for the Ministry of Defense. C, 2.24 billion naira for the Ministry of Education. And D, 315.62 billion naira for the Ministry of Health. The allocations to these ministries represent significant increases over votes in previous budgets, underscoring our commitment to increase investment in national security and human capital development. personnel costs estimated at 2.29 trillion naira, currently amount to nearly 4% of projected revenues. 40%, I beg your pardon. Substantial savings have been made from wider use of integrated personal payroll information system platform. I have directed that all MDAs must implement the IPPIS by March 2019. We have made provisions for staff promotion areas and recruitment by the armed forces, police, and paramilitary agencies. We have also provided for the settlement of inherited outstanding pension liabilities. Again, we have included provisions for the implementation of a new national minimum wage. Furthermore, 1% of the consolidated revenue fund amounting to 51.22 billion naira has been earmarked for the basic health care provision fund and other related commitments. Let me say something about minimum wage issue. I am committed to addressing the issue of a minimum wage, and I will be sending a bill to you, the National Assembly, on this. However, in order to avoid a fiscal crisis for the federal government, as well as the states, it is important to devise ways to ensure that its implementation does not lead to an increase in the level of borrowing. I am accordingly setting up a high-powered technical committee to advise on ways of funding an increase in the minimum wage and the attendant wage adjustments without having to resort to additional borrowings. The work of this technical committee will be the basis of a finance bill which will be submitted to the National Assembly alongside the minimum wage bill. In addition, the technical committee will recommend modalities for the implementation of the new minimum wage in such a manner as to maximize its inflationary impact, as well as ensure that its introduction does not lead to job losses. We have allocated 2.28 trillion naira for capital spending, inclusive of capital in statutory transfers. For comprehensiveness and transparency, the expenditure plans of the larger government-owned enterprises, as well as multilateral and bilateral project-tied loans, have been integrated into 2019 to 2021 medium-term fiscal framework. With the inclusion of 275.88 billion naira, representing capital for the larger government-owned enterprises and 556.02 billion naira for multilateral, bilateral project-tied loans, the aggregate capital budgeted is 3.12 trillion naira. This represents 30% of the total federal government of Nigeria's proposed expenditure budget of 219. In order to get full value for monies expended by the government over time and to avoid duplication and waste, our emphasis will continue to be on completion of existing projects. Accordingly, provisions have been made to carry over projects that are not likely to be fully funded under the 2018 budget to the 2019 capital budget. The allocation to the special intervention projects has been retained as 500 billion naira, consisting of 350 billion naira recurrent and 150 billion naira capital. This reflects our continued determination to pursue inclusive, gender-sensitive, and proper growth. In addition, to maintain the peace in the Niger Delta, the provision of 65 billion naira for the Presidential Amnesty Program has been retained in the 2019 budget. Similarly, the sum of 45 billion naira has been provided for the Northeast Intervention Fund, as well as the sum of 10 billion naira as take-up grant for the Northeast Development Commission. To further support small and medium-scale enterprises, which are the focus of our industrialization drive, we have set aside the sum of 15 billion naira for the recapitalization of the Bank for Agriculture and Bank of Agriculture and Industry. In addition, the sum of 10 billion naira is provided as a grant to the Bank of Industry for purpose of subsidizing the interest rates charged on loans to small and medium-scale enterprises. This is intended for them to access single-digit interest loans from Bank of Industry. Our vision is for such better prospects for all Nigerians. With careful economic management and continued diversification of our production and revenue base, we will build an inclusive, stable economy for generations to come. In addition to the development of special economic zones, which will underpin our efforts to move forward from a mono economy that's oil-based, we intend to exploit the comparative advantage of 6 geopolitical zones and our 36 states by establishing 6 industrial parks and 109 sufficient production and processing centers across all 109 senatorial zones, including shared facilities. These clusters will have power, water, and broadband facilities with embedded regulatory services. The clusters will generate vibrant economic activity, stimulate small businesses, and create jobs across the length and breadth of Nigeria. A key objective going forward is to further encourage and enable prosperous small businesses. Our micro, small, and medium enterprises will accordingly benefit from improved access to funding, supporting infrastructure, and offtake arrangements by government and larger enterprises. They will leverage the government enterprise and empowerment program and the Anchor Borrowers program. Nigeria cannot afford to be left behind in the digital age. To create jobs for our young people, we will build a digital economy around the technology and creative sectors. In partnership with the states and the private sector, we are working on a project to increase broadband penetration across all geopolitical zones of the country, such that over the next 4 years, all the 774 local governments will be provided with fiber connectivity. Modern, up-to-date infrastructure is particularly important to boost economic activity. We will continue with our emphasis on power, roads, and rail. In addition to completing the Ibadan-Kano rail line, we will also embark and move rapidly to complete the Eastern Rail from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, passing through Aba, which will connect to Abakaliki, Oka, Enugu, Owerri, Umuahia, then through Makadi, Jos, Bauchi, and Gombe. The coastal rail from Calabar to Lagos will also be completed as we aim to build a true national rail network that links all state capitals. Our road projects will gather pace and priority projects under the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, such as the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Expressway, the second Niger Bridge, and the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway will be fast-tracked for early completion. We shall expand generation, transmission, and distribution of power from the national grid while developing innovative off-grid solutions for schools, hospitals, and markets. Efforts to improve hard infrastructure will be complemented by expanded reforms in the ease of doing business initiative. We will continue to remove obstacles, reduce costs, and ensure timely delivery of services. Our social investments and social protection arrangements will continue to be deepened by extending coverage to all states and increasing the number of school children being fed daily. This will come with associated direct and indirect jobs across the value chain, including farmers, aggregators, processors, transporters, cooks, and servers. Every child counts. This is the guiding principle of our national educational system and entails far-reaching actions to boost digital literacy, infect functional skills to our school children, and retrain tens of thousands of teachers every year. Indeed, we must equip our children from a very young age with skills for the modern era by emphasizing education in science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Health is an important part of our aspirations for human capital development, and we will continue to strive to make our people healthy and happy. In addition to building world-class treatment centers, including for cancer, we will be establishing a health system that prioritizes primary health care so that millions of our people can be insured for a minimum package of services, with the poorest exempt from co-payments. In so doing, we will reduce the stress, strains, and costs that the Nigerian people face in accessing decent health care. This 2019 budget proposal, which I lay before you today, has benefited from extensive consultations and stakeholder engagements, reflecting our belief that all sectors have a critical role to play in our journey towards sustainable and inclusive development. It further demonstrates our commitments to deliver the dividends of democracy to all Nigerians in a more inclusive manner. It represents another important step in the building the Nigeria of our dreams, a vision that we are determined to achieve with the support of all Nigerians. It is therefore with great pleasure and deep sense of responsibility that I lay the 2019 appropriation bill before this joint session of the National Assembly for consideration and passage. What has become evident over the past 3 also yes, is that more can be achieved in the overall interest of the Nigerian people when we work together. It is my hope that despite our current preoccupation with political activities, we can all commit to an early passage of this budget in the larger interest of our people and the national economy. I thank you most sincerely for your attention. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Freedom come by struggle, by struggle. Freedom come. Freedom come by struggle, by struggle. Freedom come.
Say Baba, say Baba, say Baba.
Well, the president just presented the 2019 budget of 8.83 trillion naira. Well, the president explained that the budget is focused on the need for further inclusiveness, diversified and sustainable growth towards improving the lives of Nigerians. Well, in a worded analysis, the president was able to capture highlights of the 2018 budget performance and then was able to state the budget for 2019. Well, the 2019 budget is anchored on the oil benchmark of $60 per barrel, oil production of 2.3 million barrels per day, and an exchange rate of 305 United States dollars. Well, the president also explained that the real GDP growth projection is at 3.01%, while inflation rate is projected at 9.98%. Well, it's very significant to know that the president said the federal government is committed towards the payment of the new minimum wage, but he said that he will transmit a bill to the National Assembly. But then he said he will set up a high-powered technical committee that will ensure that the payment of this new minimum wage will not lead to borrowing, as he aims at reducing the level of borrowing in the country.
Can I call on the Honourable Speaker, Right Honourable Yakubu Dogara, to give us vote of thanks. Honourable Speaker.
Go and sit down and don't touch it again.
His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. One house, please. One house.
Well, it's very strategic that the general economy under the Buhari administration has actually prioritized vital sectors of the Nigerian economy, such as agriculture, which the president said a lot more will be done in the 2019 budget to ensure maximum success in the value chain. Well, the present administration has laid emphasis on solid minerals. He has also said he has directed that the NNPC should ensure the full production of the 2.3 million barrels per day as projected in the 2019 budget. Well, Nigeria's external reserves at the moment have hit high levels since within the 2 years of the Buhari administration. Nigeria's economic recovery and growth plan, launched by Mr. President in April 2015, has stabilized the nation's macroeconomy, which the president said Well, the president just presented the 2019 budget of 8.83 trillion naira. The president explained that the budget is focused on the need for further inclusiveness, diversified and sustainable growth towards improving the lives of Nigerians. Well, in a worded analysis, the president was able to capture highlights of the 2018 budget performance and then was able to state the budget for 2019. Well, the 2019 budget is anchored on the oil benchmark of $60 per barrel, oil production of 2.3 million barrels per day, and an exchange rate of 305 United States dollars. Well, the president also explained that the real GDP growth projection is at 3.01%, while inflation rate is projected at 9.98%. Well, it's very significant to know that the president said the federal government is committed towards the payment of the new minimum wage, but he said that he will transmit a bill to the National Assembly. But then he said he will set up a high-powered technical committee that will ensure that the payment of this new minimum wage will not lead to borrowing, as he aims at reducing the level of borrowing in the country.
Can I call on the Honourable Speaker, Right Honourable Yakubu to give us vote of thanks. Honourable Speaker.
Go and sit down and don't cut it again.
His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. One house, please. One house.
Well, it's very strategic that the general economy under the Buhari administration has actually prioritized vital sectors of the Nigerian economy, such as agriculture, which the president said a lot more will be done in the 2019 budget to ensure maximum success in the value chain. Well, the present administration has laid emphasis on solid minerals. He's also said he has directed that the NNPC should show the full production of the 2.3 million barrels per day as projected in the 2019 budget. Well, Nigeria's external reserves at the moment have hit high levels since within the 2 years of the Buhari administration. Nigeria's economic recovery and growth plan, launched by Mr. President in April 2015, has stabilized the nation's macroeconomy, which the President said is a major focus in the 2019 budget.
One house, please, can we take our seats?
Well, the president also highlighted the importance of the social intervention fund of his administration. Being a president who has, the poor, the condition of the poor at heart, he said he would never deviate from the implementation and the continuous progress of the social intervention fund. He has also earmarked the sum of 500 billion for that social intervention fund. And Mr. President said this time that the social intervention fund will be spread across states. He was particular about the issue of the poor, and he's also explained the fact that the health sector, that the federal government is bringing up a system that will ensure that the poor in the society pay less for every medical attention, especially the primary healthcare level. Well, these are the major issues that every Nigerian, every citizen of any nation should lay emphasis. And today, some members of the National Assembly as well are appreciating that fact.
The president has gone. The president has spoken. The president has spoken.
Well, the president, when he started his budget speech, was able to emphasize the fact that, 3.5 years into his administration, which has experienced a commodity pricing challenge, both oil and non-oil sector, and that the situation has been volatile. But in spite of that, his administration has been able to stabilize and improve the economy, especially in the area of insecurity, health, education, and agriculture. Mr. President also commended security agencies in their fight against insecurity in the Northeast. Yeah, they said also the federal government has enhanced its fight against corruption. And then some of the legislators stood up to cheer him. But he said the federal government has also maintained the exchange rate stability in spite of the volatile economy, having come out from recession. Mr. President said, in terms of trade, session of the National Assembly, where President, His Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari has presented the 2019 appropriation bill. Well, the President actually gave an extensive analysis of the 2018 budget performance and then gave the highlight of the 2019 budget. Well, the President particularly was able to explain that in spite of the meager resources and the lean pulse that the administration worked with, when it came on board, that administration has actually stabilized the Nigerian economy, especially as it came out from recession. Well, there was an insinuation before this joint session that some members will boycott the visit, but from what we see here, the two chambers, members of the two chambers were all present. The chamber was filled to the brim, and as a matter of fact, the speech by the president was quite worded, very clear and succinct. And one thing that everybody is taking home here today is that the president is re-emphasizing his commitment towards elevating poverty in the country in spite of political affiliations. And that is why the president was able to state that all his economic interventions were devoid of political affiliation, especially in bailouts to states. The president was clear that there was no political undertone in interventions that this administration gave to states, and that was clear. And in that aspect, some of the legislators were actually appreciative of that, being the fact that the bailouts were quite huge sums, and then the president also reiterated the fact that it was very, very apolitical. Well, at this point in time, the president has left the chamber, and then the next stage is when the members of the National Assembly will now officially read the budget for second reading, and they refer it to a committee, and then the consideration of the budget begins.